Distribution of 540 solar home systems to 10 hinterland villages, benefiting in excess of 3,000 hinterland residents. Further, residents will continue to receive training to operate and maintain these units. Government also remains committed to the microhydro interventions in the Chung River at Pieto and is currently reviewing the design and financing arrangements to make this project a reality. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, in excess of $200 million has been budgeted for the relocation of the power plant in Lethem and the upgrading of power supply in Culver City, Magyar, and Linden. Notably, in the area of energy efficiency, GPL's largest customer, Guyana Water Inc., will be investing approximately $338 million in an effort to improve operational efficiency through more efficient electromechanical and energy management. Further, Mr. Speaker, the GEA continues its efforts in ensuring the efficient management of energy and encouraging the utilization of renewable and sustainable energy sources. Investments in our people, education. Mr. Speaker, the new education strategic plan for 2014 to 2018 is currently being finalized and is anticipated to focus on improving literacy rate, early childhood development, teacher training, enrollment in single sciences, technical vocational educational programs, and more structured partnerships with private sector providers and parents. In 2030, $28.5 billion was expended towards the final year of the last strategic plan. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, the sum of $32.3 billion has been allocated towards the implementation of the first year of our new education strategic plan. This year, we've allocated $2.9 billion towards construction, rehabilitation, extension, and maintenance of our education facilities, including a new and expanded Zeeburg Secondary School and the Cato Secondary Complex. Moreover, we will commence implementation of a $10 million universal secondary education initiative, which will facilitate the construction of new schools and provision of materials for improved teaching techniques, technology-assisted learning. Our Teacher Training College will continue to offer their existing programs, as well as focus on the appraisal and development of their lecturers, including having some teachers pursue postgraduate education. We will intensify our effort to eliminate illiteracy. We will allocate resources in ICT to ensure that an additional 2,500 teachers are trained. And as I've already indicated, all of our secondary schools will be equipped with computer laboratories before the end of this year. We recognize that equipping our young people with technical and vocational education training skills linked with entrepreneurship training is an assured option for enabling their own prosperity. And this year we will expand opportunities to include occupational programs to support the mining and hospitality industries. Continued emphasis will also be placed on tertiary education. It's an allocation of $1.5 billion towards the operation of both campuses of the University of Guyana, inclusive of $450 million for our student loan program. Later this year, our students will have the option of online degree programs for the first time ever as a result of an investment made last year. Also, through the University of Guyana Science and Technology Support Initiative, 14 science and technology buildings will be rehabilitated and equipped, and a feasibility study for the new Center of Excellence for the Study of Biodiversity will commence. Further, 17 programs have been identified for curriculum reform, which will be designed and tested over a 3-year period. Mr. Speaker, government recently launched the updated National Health Strategy, Health Vision 2020, for the period from 2013 to 2020. This strategy seeks to integrate the delivery of quality, effective, and responsive health services, and prevention measures to improve the nation's well-being. We remain unwavering in our commitment to securing access for all to public health care services without suffering financial hardship. Mr. Speaker, the public health care system expended in excess of $17.7 billion in 2013. 2014, $21.5 billion has been allocated towards the sector for the achievement of its strategic goals. Of this amount, $2.4 billion is budgeted for construction and upgrade of healthcare facilities countrywide, including the Port Kaituma District Hospital, Linden Hospital Complex, Makwani Hospital, the acute care facility in the National Psychiatric Hospital, and the Georgetown School of Nursing. Also, $910 million is allocated for the specialty hospital, while $382.7 million is allocated for the purchase of medical equipment. Mr. Speaker, $117 million is allocated this year for the purchase of 12 ambulances, which will represent a 40% increase in the existing national fleet. In our efforts to continue post-primary and specialized health training, over $428 million has been allocated to train 20 additional postgraduate residents and upgrade over 4,000 healthcare providers. In keeping with government's focus on maternal and child health, government will continue to prioritize resource mobilization for improving maternal health, and effort will be made to accelerate the achievement of this Millennium Development Goal in collaboration with our development partners. As such, in 2014, the sum of $50 million is allocated to commence the extension of the maternity facility at the Georgetown Public Hospital. This will ensure increased bed capacity, while a further $22.6 million is allocated for the establishment of maternity waiting homes in Letham and Bartica to cater for antenatal high-risk mothers. Mr. Speaker, recognizing the growing incidence of personal and domestic violence, the provision of services in mental health will focus on the prevention and management of suicidal behaviors. In 2011, a cost of illness assessment for non-communicable diseases was conducted in Guyana and found the annual direct and indirect costs accruing from these non-communicable diseases amounted to over $40 billion. A national commission is soon to be established to oversee the accelerated implementation of the national plans for prevention and control of NCDs, and $50 million has been allocated to launch a public education and outreach campaign. Housing. Mr. Speaker, our vision for the housing sector is to further the realization of better living conditions for Guyanese through the development of sustainable and viable communities. And we will not stop until every Guyanese is able to have access to adequate and affordable shelter. To this end, continued attention will be paid on developing new housing schemes, consolidating existing schemes, increasing the provision of turnkey homes, expanding the construction of core homes, increasing access to affordable housing, financing for housing, integrating new housing areas with existing neighborhood democratic councils, and increasing occupancy. Mr. Speaker, in 2013, a total of $3.2 billion was spent in this sector. In 2014, government has allocated $4.4 billion to the housing sector. We will allocate 5,900 house lots and process and distribute 4,100 land titles to new landowners. Housing scheme development will continue at Eccles, Diamond, Anna Katrina, Ifra, Bath, and number 74 village, among 77 villages rather, among others. In addition, through the continuation of the public-private Turkey initiative, another 100 homes will be constructed, and an additional 50 police officers, nurses, and teachers will be allocated land to construct their homes. The sector will also see the completion and distribution of another 176 core homes, distribution of 135 coastal home improvement subsidies valued at $26.8 million, and an additional disbursement of 54 hinterland subsidies valued at $54 million, benefiting a total of 1,248 persons. Water. Mr. Speaker, government's investments in the water sector seek to expand safe, adequate, and affordable water coverage across the length and breadth of the country. As such, emphasis will be on the replacement of electromechanical equipment and infrastructure, continued construction of new water treatment facilities, the extension of the network, and rolling out of the metering program. Over the past year, an amount of $2.4 billion was expended on the sector. And in 2014, over $2.5 billion is allocated to water. This, Mr. Speaker, will be spent on the drilling, construction, and completion of wells in Cotton Tree, Hope, Monrepole, Sparendam, and Sophia. The construction of water clarifier and filter at Bartica and Eccles. Construction of service connections in East Berbice and in Linden, and the installation of transmission and distribution mains in such areas as Virgin Nugent, Victoria, Cabot Creek, Amboys Avenue, and Bartica. Further, Mr. Speaker, 2 water treatment plants at Rizrock and Milliers Ward will be completed, benefiting more than 30,000 residents in Region 10. Additionally, water supply improvement works will be done in hinterland communities in such areas as Santa Rosa, Arau, Taruka, Ashalton, and St. Ignatius, benefiting approximately 20,000 residents. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, with electricity charges soaring to approximately 60% of production costs, as I've already indicated, GWI will be implementing initiatives aimed at reducing its electricity bill. And to this end, it has already completed a comprehensive energy audit. Sanitation. Mr. Speaker, this government remains committed to ensuring that a safe and effective sanitation system is established for the management and disposal of municipal solid waste and sewage in order to protect the health and well-being of our citizens. In 2013, a sum of $546.5 million was expended towards the continued rehabilitation of the Georgetown sewer system, along with the rehabilitation of 24 pumping stations. We've developed a draft Solid Waste Management Act, which seeks to establish a comprehensive legal and institutional framework to improve the conditions for waste management countrywide. We've established a National Solid Waste Management Division. And we will develop solid waste management plans which will tackle the collection, transportation, and disposal of solid waste. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, the sum of $544.6 million is budgeted for the completion of the sewer system in central Georgetown, the outfall in Georgetown, and the sewage pumping station at Tuckford. The solid waste management bill, to which I just referred, has also been reviewed and is expected to be tabled in this honorable House later this year. A sum of $1.1 billion is budgeted for the completion of civil works and for operational expenses in the Hags Bush Sanitary Landfill, which currently processes 320 tons of solid waste daily. In addition, Mr. Speaker, we have commenced a pilot project of composting and a public awareness campaign on management and disposal of solid waste. These issues strike at the core of our nation's health and our individual responsibility for keeping our environment clean. Vulnerable groups and other targeted interventions. Children. Mr. Speaker, government's relentless effort to ensure the well-being and safety of our children continue unabated. Work was concluded on the development of Child Care and Development Services regulations, which contain the requirements for residential care facilities. Efforts by the Child Care and Protection Agency prevented 2,432 children from being separated from their families, while 519 children were removed from abusive situations, and 205 placed in a family setting through the foster care program. 2014, a sum of $382.5 million has been allocated to consolidate efforts made toward the delivery of child care and protection services. Approximately 300 daycare facilities are expected to be assessed, and the staff advised and trained on the regulatory requirements for licensing. In addition, training will be conducted in all regions to equip approximately 2,000 parents and primary caregivers with skills and information to improve their parenting capacity. One-stop centers which offer psychosocial support as regarding facilities will be expanded. And efforts will continue to be directed to strengthen the skills and capacity of those children who are ready to be phased out of the formal care system to live independently through operationalizing their after-day youth. Mr. Speaker, government continued to support the development of vulnerable youth across the country by empowering them with skills and knowledge to improve their own livelihoods and contribute to our nation's development. Over 2,300 young persons benefited from training under the National Training Program for Youth Employment, the Apprenticeship Program, and the Youth Entrepreneurial Skills Training Program, along with other programs conducted by the Board of Industrial Training. Over $61 million was expended on equipping, maintaining, and rehabilitating training centers nationwide, and on advancing work at the juvenile correctional facility. It is expected in 2014 that over 3,500 young people will benefit from continued training on the programs similar to those mentioned earlier. In addition, the commencement of a hinterland training program under the BIT, which is expected to target 150 persons, and which in fact commenced in January in 3 communities in Region 9, Pradanawa and Allied, in order to build capacity in carpentry, joinery, and catering. With respect to sports development, a sum of over $1 billion was spent in 2013 to advance works on the athletic track at Leonora, the warm-up pool at the National Aquatic Center, along with developing and upgrading other sports facilities. In 2014, government will continue to place focus on improving the quality of facilities available throughout the country, as well as offering quality programs in the area of sports for both athletes and officials. To this end, a sum of over $960 million has been allocated to the sector, of which $344 million is to be spent on continuing works at the Leonora Athletic Track and the warm-up pool, and another $300 million is expected to be spent on the Grounds Enhancement Initiative, which aims at upgrading selected sports grounds in the country. Single parents. Mr. Speaker, single parents continue to benefit from a range of training programs and initiatives delivered by this government, all with the aim of enhancing their skill set and employability. Under the BIT Single Parents Training Program, 447 persons graduated with skills in areas such as garment manufacturing, cosmetology, and catering. Training also continued under the GWLI for 174 single parents benefiting from programs covering such areas as sewing, information technology, and office procedure. In addition, under the Women of Worth initiative, new loans were issued while particular emphasis was placed, as mentioned earlier, on reducing the default rates. 2014, our commitment to support the livelihoods of single parents nationwide will continue. A total of 770 single parents are targeted to benefit government training programs covering a wide range of areas. In collaboration with the private sector, training will commence in basic entrepreneurship, networking, accounting, branding, promotion and advertising and packaging, amongst others. This training is expected to strengthen the capacity of beneficiaries in managing and sustaining their businesses in order to further reduce the default rates of borrowers under this initiative. Elderly. Mr. Speaker, government sustained its commitment to the well-being of our senior citizens. A total number of 42,990 pensioners benefited from old age pension. 30 patient care assistants were trained to provide adequate care to those persons living in geriatric institutions. The National Commission for the Elderly visited these facilities and reviewed the minimum standards, including in such areas as rights of the elderly, family caregiving, quality of housing accommodation. In 2014, the focus will be placed on continuing the training for patient care assistants in both private and government-owned homes. Emphasis will also be placed on improving the standards of care being offered to PAMs with the view of establishing best practices to be used by all private homes. Centers for the elderly will be established in various communities in order to ensure our senior citizens are engaged in activities that promote their physical and mental health. Homeless. Mr. Speaker, government remains committed towards providing a sense of hope and belonging for the poor, vulnerable, and disadvantaged members of society, including the homeless. In 2013, on average, 190 street dwellers benefited daily from services provided in the night shelter. In addition, the Hugo Chavez Center for Rehabilitation and Reintegration was commissioned and will accommodate 100 males and 80 females and provide services including training for its occupants and fulfilling its mandate to reintegrate the homeless into society. Indigenous communities. Mr. Speaker, in a sustained effort to guarantee equal opportunities to Guyanese across the country, in 2013, government continued to channel resources toward the development of Aboriginal communities. In 2013, a sum of $77 million was spent to commence demarcation and extension service activities in 8 villages, while investigation activities continued in another 7 villages. 26 community development plans were implemented with the aim of improving the socio-economic development within the priorities of identified communities. Over $1 million was expended with a focus placed on supporting beekeeping, the marketing of carbon oil products, and on strengthening the fish farms and pineapple production. Programs aimed at reviving Arawak language and developing ecotourism in 19 villages were also conducted. Under the Hinterland Scholarship Program, $74.6 million was spent to the benefit of 430 students. In addition, $200 million was spent on the Youth Entrepreneurship and Apprenticeship Program, which was launched in regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, and 198 persons were trained in basic computer skills, solar panel installation. Mr. Speaker, 2014 will see continued government interventions to enhance the livelihoods and development of our Indian communities countrywide. To this end, $796 million has been allocated for the continuation of the Youth Entrepreneurship and Apprenticeship Program, expanding to regions 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. Under the OLPF initiative, work will continue on the construction of 100 hubs in 100 villages to the benefit of 57,000 persons. And one person from each village will be trained in basic computer skills and maintenance. In addition, over 470 students will benefit from the $66 million allocated to the Hinterland Scholarship Program. Other vulnerable groups. Mr. Speaker, our government remains committed to ensuring the well-being of all Guyanese. 2013 efforts continue to be directed towards disadvantaged individuals through the Public Assistance Program and toward employment seekers through the Central Recruitment and Manpower Agency. A sum of $15.2 million was spent on improved software, which permits job seekers and employers to upload their applications or vacancy requests to the website. 2013, the website was used by job seekers and employers alike. A total of 3,189 persons were interviewed and 2,596 persons were employed. It is expected that over 3,000 individuals will gain employment in 2014 under the expanded efforts of this agency. Enhancing security and justice, public safety and security. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with the vision of ensuring the safety, rights and dignity of all, in keeping with the vision of safety, rights and dignity of all citizens are preserved within the context of being responsive to a dynamic environment, government will continue to prioritize resource allocation to our security sector. We'll emphasize the need for competent human capital and modern technology as we strengthen the capability of our institutions and communities in a professional and proactive approach to the aim of maintaining law and order in our society. Supporting strategic planning and evidence-based interventions, technological advancement remains a priority. With a view to improving the effectiveness of the sector and supporting the implementation of priority actions stemming from the strategic plans within the sector, $17.3 billion was expended in 2013. In 2014, government will continue to place substantial emphasis to ensure that strategic planning and evidence-based interventions are made towards the maintenance of public order and safety throughout Guyana. To this end, a total of $19.5 billion is allocated to the sector. Training will be conducted for the Special Weapons and Tactics Unit, popularly called the SWAT Unit, and a sum of $382.6 million has been allocated to train the joint services, while $430 million is budgeted to train and equip community policing groups countrywide, all in an effort to restore safe neighborhoods to our citizens. Training will also commence with staff in the forensic laboratory on chemical analysis, drugs analysis, toxicology, and courtroom procedures. A sum of $1.2 billion has been allocated for the completion of the forensic laboratory and the fire training school, and the continuous upgrading of physical infrastructure across the joint services in locations throughout the country. A sum of $1.1 billion has been allocated to support land, air, and sea operations of the joint services, while another $1.1 billion is allocated to effectively equip our forces to serve and protect our citizens. The National Drug Strategy Master Plan for 2014 to 2018 will be finalized to enhance Guyana's ability to combat drugs at a local, regional, and international level. In addition, a new national action plan for the period 2014 to 2015 tracking trafficking in persons is currently being developed and will guide ongoing efforts. Justice. Mr. Speaker, our government continues to place the highest priority on ensuring that our citizens have access to the justice system effectively. In 2013, $275 million was spent on infrastructure in the justice sector. the construction and upgrade of several facilities, including the mediation center, in Amsterdam, various magistrates' courts, along with rehabilitation of the High Court. With regards to strengthening effectiveness of the justice system, 1 civil and 3 criminal justice committees were established to review the functioning of the system and monitor and evaluate the performance of our courts. A database to monitor court performance has also been established. Mr. Speaker, Guyana's law reports for the period 1930 to 2007 and the revision of the laws of Guyana to 2010 were also completed. The latter is now available in print for the first time in 34 years, and as you pointed out, sir, those law volumes now adorn our desks in this honorable House. Reduction of backlogged cases continued apace, with an additional 1,000 cases being cleared out of the court system. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, a sum of $1.8 billion has been budgeted to consolidate the advances already made within the justice sector. In accordance with the Law Revision Act, the relevant Law Revision Order has been gazetted this year, bringing into effect these newly amended and consolidated laws of Guyana to which I just referred. Within the courts, a number of practice directions are being drafted to support the new rules of the High Court Civil Procedure. These new rules will simplify the commencement of proceedings in court, allow citizens easier access to the court, and provide a mechanism for recourse to mediation. The Civil and Criminal Justice Committees, which I just mentioned, will intensify efforts in monitoring and evaluation of the performance of courts country. 2014 voice recording will be introduced for the first time in the Chief Justice's Court, the Commercial Court, and the Court of Appeal. This initiative is expected to further reduce the time taken to record process cases. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, government has also increased the number of puisne judges to 20 with a view to enhancing the system's capacity to discharge important functions in a timely manner. Mr. Speaker, investment in infrastructure will continue apace, with an amount of $238.5 million allocated to fund the construction of a land court, a new magistrates court at Sparendam, the completion of the number 51 village court, the rehabilitation of courtrooms at the High Court, and maintenance of facilities countrywide. Foreign relations. Mr. Speaker, the preservation of Guyana's sovereignty and territorial integrity remains central to the policies of our government. During the past year, we embarked on an expanded program of cooperation with Brazil and continue to enjoy good relations with Suriname. As was mentioned earlier, following the detention of a research vessel by a Venezuelan naval frigate, Guyana's exclusive economic zone, the initiation of talks between our two countries was prompted, and relations with Venezuela were kept at a satisfactory level. Guyana's unwavering support for the efforts of the Caribbean integration process was demonstrated by our active engagement in strengthening the CSME across all sectors. In 2013, work continued apace on Guyana's coordination on the revision of the existing treaty establishing the Caribbean community, to update institutional arrangements and modernize the region's infrastructure. Our focus in 2014 is to expand programs of cooperation and ensure that relations with our neighboring countries as well as those in the wider hemisphere and in other regions are enhanced. Guyana will press ahead with deeper implementation of the CSME regime. In this regard, it will be recalled the Caribbean Skills Nationals Act was amended and approved by this Honourable House very recently. With the enactment of this Act, Mr. Speaker, A contingent right is conferred upon the spouse and person who holds a skilled national certificate to enable that spouse to engage in gainful employment or other occupation in Guyana without having to obtain a work permit. Mr. Speaker, Guyana will also remain as a serious partner in CARICOM's negotiations with third countries, such as the current trade negotiations with Canada and continued implementation of the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. Our government will embark on the next phase of the Guyana Diaspora Project to consolidate plans in response to the interest shown by several Guyanese overseas in contributing their skills and expertise in specific areas relevant to national development. Other institutional reforms, financial sector reform. Mr. Speaker, the stability and strength of our financial system are an indispensable prerequisite for the overall health and well-being of the economy. As a result, our government has spared no effort to ensure that the required regulatory and supervisory capacity and capability are in place to safeguard the integrity of the system. In this regard, efforts need to be made constantly to preserve the robustness of the regulatory and supervisory system and to promote the growth of the sector and access to the services. Through the year, the banking sector remains strong, adequately capitalized, profitable, and with high excess holdings of liquid assets. The strength of the deposit-taking sector, as evidenced by its capital adequacy ratio, remained high at 23%, surpassing the minimum 8% benchmark by 15 percentage points as at close of 2013. The commercial banking sector continued its aggressive branch expansion drive with the establishment of branches countrywide, particularly in the interior locations of Guyana. New branches were opened at Lethem, Region 9, and Port Kaituma, in Region 1, while another bank will soon be establishing its presence in Region 6 at Port Furman. Work is also continuing apace in the capital city on the construction of 2 new head offices for 2 smaller ones. Mr. Speaker, despite the significantly negative impact on insurance industry's financial strength after the collapse of Clipper in 2008, the industry has since rebounded successfully. The recovery of the industry was evident by the significant increases in assets, capital, and net premiums from the amounts reported in 2008 and the Clipper crisis hit the industry. For the year ended 2013, the insurance sector was adequately capitalized in keeping with the requirements of the Insurance Act. Both the long-term and general insurance sectors had assets in excess of liabilities by 72% and 103% respectively. This was complemented by the sector's ability to meet their expenses for growth in net premium. As a result of the industry's 2013 performance, positive growth in assets, capital, and net premiums are also projected for the year 2014. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the underlying strength of the sector, the systemic failures by people in Guyana and across the region have reinforced the need for enhanced regulation of the sector. Drafting of a new insurance act and attendant regulations are currently being finalized, and it is anticipated that this act will be brought before this House before the end of 2014. The Supervisory Authority, the Bank of Guyana, in its ongoing efforts to foster more disclosure and transparency in the financial sector, commenced the publication of the cumulative financial prudential ratios for the licensed financial institutions in the industry on its website. This is in addition to the quarterly financial indicators that have been published over the years. In addition to further strengthening supervisory function, the Bank of Guyana issued Supervision Guideline number 30, Anti-Money Laundering and Company Financing Terrorism to the licensed financial institution during last year. Drafting has also commenced on legislation for pensions to provide more effective supervision and regulation of pension schemes, which will help to ensure the sustainability of the system. A significant development within the financial sector, Mr. Speaker, was the licensing of the first credit bureau in Guyana. This milestone license was issued to an international company, Credit Info Guyana Incorporated, was the Guyanese subsidiary, Guyana registered subsidiary of an international company, Credit Info Guyana Incorporated, in July 2013. All the commercial banks, 2 major utility companies, and 1 microcredit provider signed up to participate in the credit bureau. It is anticipated that the use of the credit reports generated by the bureau will contribute to significantly reducing the cost of borrowing, while at the same time greatly enhancing access to credit by a large segment of the population, thereby promoting a more efficient and stable credit market. Mr. Speaker, as it relates to the U.S. Foreign Accounts Tax Compliance Act, FATCA, our government has indicated to the government of that country our availability to commence negotiations on an intergovernmental agreement for implementation. Guyana Revenue Authority has been identified as the conduit of financial information between Guyana and their U.S. counterparts, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service. In the area of AML-CFT, as is well known now, Guyana responded to recommendations made by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, by introducing into the National Assembly an amendment bill which will address more than 90% of recommendations made by that body. These amendments were reviewed by CFATF, and it was agreed that they will effectively address the recommendations made. Other non-legislative recommendations have been addressed, such as the creation of a national oversight committee that will provide policy and guidance on money laundering and common financing terrorism in the entire country. We've also initiated a mechanism that will work in conjunction with the FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, and law enforcement agencies to investigate special financial crimes. The FIU is working with cooperatives, friendly societies, credit unions to oversee them in the fulfillment of their obligations as reporting entities, as well as in conjunction with supervisors and gold dealers in other precious metals, casinos, to ensure their compliance as reporting entities. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, effort will continue to aim at persuading some of the House to enact the required amendments to address the CFATF recommendations. Fourth, improving the business environment. Mr. Speaker, the creation of an environment conducive to the robust and sustained growth and development of our private sector remains a top priority for our government. No matter how micro the enterprise or how large scale the investment, whether you are a national or non-national, located in a rural or urban setting, creating employment for yourself or thousands, be reassured that you are all critical threads within our national economic climate. Throughout 2013, efforts to enhance the competitiveness of Guyana's economy, generate growth and prosperity through the creation of new jobs, the expansion of exports, and the injection of increased investment continue unabated. Building on the historic National Competitiveness Summit of 2011, a national economic forum took place last year, providing the opportunity for government and representatives of different industries in the private sector to discuss major challenges as well as recommendations aimed at further improving Guyana's business environment. Work advanced on some of the actions identified in the Guyana Doing Business Action Plan, specifically in relation to the indicator targeting the property registration process, activities related to the physical, legal, and administrative separation of deeds, land and property registries, etc. These included the passage of the Deeds and Commercial Registries Act 2013 by the House of the House, and the relocation of the land registry to more facilitated premises. Mr. Speaker, in 2013, the Guyana Revenue Authority continued to be committed to delivering high-quality services to its clients by consistently applying policies, regulations, and practices. The Total Revenue Integrated Processing System was reviewed and enhancements identified to improve technological capacity to reduce transaction time and costs. Capacity was also built to integrate tax offices to provide a full range of services in Puerto Rico, Lesser, Corrivaton, New Amsterdam, Linden, and Regina, Guatemala. Work also continued to strengthen the technical capacity of the staff in the Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission with respect to consumer protection, competition-related issues, forensic accounting, and public procurement. Moreover, public relations activities were carried out with the aim of raising awareness on Guyana's competitive Competition and Fair Trading Act and Consumer Affairs Act, World Consumer Rights Day, the rights and responsibilities of both businesses and consumers in relation to the return of goods and effective in relation to the return of defective goods and bid rigging in public procurement. A diagnostic and readiness assessment was completed of the single window automated processing system, and stakeholder agencies were presented revised business procedures, a draft single window bill, and technical recommendations were proposed for a single window automated processing system to best suit Guyana's needs. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, progress will continue to be made on the implementation of selected activities under the revised Doing Business Action Plan. Specifically, it is expected that the processing time to start a business will be reviewed with the aim of reducing it. The feasibility of introducing expedited one-day services will be assessed. Moreover, work will commence towards the introduction of electronic filing of cases at the commercial court with the view of improving Guyana's position with respect to the enforcing of contracts. And a framework is expected to be introduced to allow insolvent companies to be able to reach agreement with their creditors out of court so as to avoid bankruptcy and improve Guyana's position with respect to resolving insolvency indicator. In the context of registering property indicator, efforts which have recently commenced on the digitization of deeds conveyance records will continue throughout 2014 with the aim of reducing the number of days it takes to produce deed certificate. With respect to Customs and Trade Administration, in 2014, focus will be placed on consolidating efforts already made towards a more technologically advanced system with the aim of further improving the quality of services offered to taxpayers and at the same time strengthening anti-corruption measures. Later this year, taxpayers with internet connection will be able to access an electronic banking system to make payments of income, property, and other taxes, thus reducing transaction time and costs incurred, while work is already ongoing to facilitate online filing of income taxes. Just recently, Mr. Speaker, the GRA has announced and launched automated driver's licenses with a view of encouraging the strengthening of control, decreasing the risk of forgery, and expanding the use of technologies and technology. Other means will be sought to further simplify and streamline taxpayer interaction with the GRA. Services for importers and exporters of goods will be enhanced through the recently operationalized secondary mobile scanner, which will contribute to a reduction of time processing and at the same time increasing monitoring of goods entering or leaving our country. Transparency and accountability will be strengthened with the introduction of a random selection of imported goods for examination, and to increase surveillance and minimize taxation of smuggling activities. Several initiatives are being undertaken, including the operationalization of multi-purpose ports of entry in Etringman, Parika, and Charity to identify the presence and enforcement of customs and tax laws, both on land and on water. All of these initiatives, Mr. Speaker, taken together, serve to make the environment for doing business in Guyana more attractive to investors from around the world. Strengthening public administration. Mr. Speaker, the need to deliver services in a more timely and effective manner to the people remains of paramount importance. The reforms that we undertake and system strengthening are aimed to achieve greater value for money, ever mindful that everyone, regard the gate to the CEO or the Minister in the office or the field, is there only in service of the people. Strengthening interagency collaboration, providing information and services on government websites, improving processing time to service delivery, and developing more client-friendly systems continue to engage the attention of officials across the public sector. Emphasis continued this week to be placed on strengthening capacity of the national monitoring and evaluation systems through the development of monitoring indicators to track outputs and outcomes where practical. We continue to train the technical cadre of the public service in key concepts of monitoring and evaluation, bringing the total exposed to training to 472 persons, with another 250 persons slated to be trained this year. We also conducted practical application of M&E techniques, including design and use of performance indicators in the work environment in several programs. Work intensified in two pilot sectors of health and education. In 2014, an evaluation of the nurses training program will be done in an effort to determine ways to improve student performance and achieve greater value for money, given the significant expenditure outlay. Support will be given to develop strategic plans for ministries and regions. And for the first time, the regional action plan will be formulated to support the consistent rollout of the new 5-year strategic plan in the education sector. Our internal audit capability continues to be strengthened with a high-level oversight committee. In addition, work commenced on a payroll audit for health and education that will be completed in the third quarter of 2013. In the area of public-private partnerships, a white paper to guide policy and modalities will be concluded, while sensitization issues related to discoveries of oil and gas will be conducted. National statistics. Mr. Speaker, as I have indicated on previous occasions, our government is firmly committed to the continued strengthening of the national statistical system in support of stronger evidence-based policy decisions. To this end, work continued on compiling the results of the 2012 National Census. Completion of the preliminary report was somewhat hampered by the physical challenges of access to households and enterprises, particularly in mining areas within regions 1, 7, and 8, and for a final verification of data. It is now anticipated that the preliminary report will be available by the end of the first half of 2014. Work will subsequently continue in 2014 on the processing and analysis of the data that will inform results in the main report. The latter report is expected to address such topics as the changing age structure of the population, the changing composition of our labor market and employment profiles, the ethnic, gender, religious, marital, educational, and quality life profiles of our population, with specific attention to issues related to our females and children, the children population and fertility rates being among them, the size and other profiles of our elderly population, incidence of disabilities in our population, to name just a few, the anticipated analysis. The analysis will also include projections on our population size through the year 2050 based on current observed trends. Also during 2014, the Bureau will undertake to train data collection officers within the hinterland region to ensure more timely data gathering and more efficient logistics in those areas in the future. Governance. Mr. Speaker, much has already been said on the travails of this 10th Parliament. Suffice it to say that for the first time in the history of independent Guyana, the judiciary has had to be approached on several occasions to interpret parliamentary action and constitutional provisions on matters before or emanating from the National Assembly. As I've already alluded, Guyana has been challenged in passing a CFATF compliant anti-money laundering AML-CFT bill. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, we present a unique circumstance to FATF in that the non-enactment of the bill emerging from their recommendations is not for want of executive effort.